So earlier today, we got a nerf to the XM4 as well as the BREN, and on top of that, we got some news on when the Iron Trials Rebirth game mode is dropping, and in this video, I want to go over 5 of the best loadouts you can use inside Rebirth right now or when the Iron Trials game mode drops. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k subscribers. Click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel as well. But let's get straight into these loadouts here, and at number 5 we have the Swiss paired with the PPSH from Cold War. Now I made a gameplay video all about the PPSH and why I love this gun, and I think it is the best sniper support weapon in the game right now. I think it's incredible when it comes to bullet velocity, mag size, everything like that, and when it comes to Iron Trials you will need that mag size. And in the Swiss overall you can choose between the SPR, the Modern Warfare car, and the Swiss, but the Swiss does the most amount of damage out of any of these snipers, and that is why I do think it's going to be the better option when it comes to Iron Trials. But if you're playing regular Rebirth, you can switch between those 3, but like I said, for that Iron Trials, the Swiss will be the best option. Now the build for the Swiss itself is the GRU suppressor for the bullet velocity, we need the combat recon barrel again for the bullet velocity, 5mm laser for the ADS times, bruiser grip, or you could swap this out for a mag or a different optic or whatever you want, you can swap it out. And then the serpent wrap. Now the airborne elastic does not actually help with flinch resistance, so that is why we're not choosing that. And that overall will be probably the best aggressive sniper when it comes to Iron Trials. And then when it comes to the PPSH, I do think this is the better PPSH compared to the Vanguard one. But overall, it's got a solid mag size, which is very important for Iron Trials. On top of that, the movement is very good. The bullet velocity is really good. The recoil control also on this build, even though it's got no recoil controlling attachments, it's still very easy to control. And like I said, I did make that gameplay video all about it, so if you want to check that out, it will be linked in the description down below, and pretty much most of my kills were with this gun anyway. Now I used a regular sound suppressor on Rebirth because you get the bullet velocity, and to be honest, most of your gunfights are close range anyway, so you don't really need the recoil control. Task Force barrel gives you the strafing speeds. Now it does hurt your recoil, but it's not really that much that you're going to notice it. Then when it comes to the stock, CQB stock is now the best. It gives you better sprint to fire times. Serpent wrap, once again, because it's going to give you a faster ADS time, we need to compensate for the mags. And then the 71 round drum mags is the best option, like I said, for Iron Trials or even standard Rebirth. Now when it comes to Rebirth, I always have one of these kind of loadouts here where I try and build a double SMG loadout. It's probably like my most aggressive loadout because Rebirth is very close quarters, and not really much of that's going to change when it comes to Iron Trials because the map will remain for the most part the same. But like I said, I always like to build these kind of loadouts where it's a double SMG build, but obviously I don't want to be sharing the same ammo, so I usually try to make an assault rifle feel more like an SMG, and currently the AS44 has one of the fastest possible TTKs at close and long range out of any weapon. If you want to see the kind of stats behind that, you can check out our previous video. I'll leave that linked at the end of this one. But also on top of that, I do think the MP40 is a very solid SMG just overall, and you do still need to be able to handle that mid-range with both of these weapons, and that is why the MP40 is my best choice, because at mid-range it's still pretty solid. And when it comes to Iron Trials as well, we also have the option to swap the 45 round mags for the 64 round mags, which is absolutely insane when it comes to SMGs, and it doesn't really con your movement or ADS all that much. Now currently I am using the 45 round mags just because we don't have the Iron Trials game mode just yet, and the rest of the build is what we're used to seeing when it comes to the meta MP40. Recoil booster, Krosnick barrel, the Krosnick optic, then the remove stock, the steady perk, quick, and then the grooved grip, which I do think helps a lot when it comes to strafing speeds. The 45 round mags, like I said, you can swap those out, hollow point, and then the pistol grip, which you can either use the Carver 4 grip or the skeletal as well. The MP40 is just a very solid SMG. Now, it's not got the fastest possible TTK, but definitely allows you to handle that mid-range because you're pairing it with another close-range gun. Now, the build that I've settled on for the AS44 is absolutely ridiculous at the moment, and it's a build that I never thought I would need to use, but if you've used the old Vanguard PPSH, the one that was broken, and you're looking for something that's got the same kind of hipfire damage potential, then this is the gun for you, because this gun absolutely melts. With the Gung Ho perk, it pretty much works exactly the same as that hipfire PPSH. and this is the build you need to be using. Now, I did say in the previous video to use the 40 round mags. Now, I just feel like you're burning through those mags a bit too quickly, and that is why I use the 60 rounds for this build right here, but both work really well. You will get slightly faster TTK with the 40 option here. Then you're using the Falcon barrel, which is going to be a faster fire rate and in turn a faster TTK. Same with the recoil booster as well. Carver foregrip. Now you can use the pistol grip, but I do think the Carver foregrip's a little bit better because it helps with the recoil as well. Pine tar grip, because again it helps with hip fire and recoil. Hollow point, as always, you want that consistent TTK. Gung ho is what's making this gun absolutely broken, so you need to make sure you're using that. Then when it comes to the stock, we're using the remove stock for the better hip fire accuracy once again, and we're using fully loaded here. And like I said, this gun works absolutely amazingly when it comes to replacing that PPSH. Now at number 3, I always have one of these kind of classes where I have a ghost or a tempered class, and especially on Rebirth, I do think tempered is just going to be way more important because no one really uses UAVs all that much, although you do show up if you get killed by an enemy, so that is something you do want to keep in mind. But especially on the Iron Trials game mode, I feel like tempered will be better because you do have a lot more health. If you've got more health than your opponent when you're in a gunfight, you're more likely to win, and 2v1s are much harder on Iron Trials than they are on regular Rebirth, so you need to make sure you can make the most out of your armor plates. When it comes to the secondary weapon, Diamati or AMP will work perfectly fine. If I'm being perfectly honest, the Diamati has better damage per mag, and therefore you're probably better off with that if you prefer it, but I just like using the AMP because it's fully automatic, and that is the main reason I use this gun. But like I said, Diamati is probably the better option if I'm being perfectly honest, and if you do land a couple of headshots, you get an even better TTK values as well. Sound suppressor for the faster ADS and better bullet velocity. Task Force barrel for the better strafing speeds and bullet velocity and range. Then you get the Integrity and Spotlight as well for better movement, 30 round fast mags, and Serpent Wrap. Not really much has changed with this build here. When it comes to the STG, this gun is just very versatile, and not only that, you could pretty much handle every single range with this. On top of that, you get a pretty large mag, and that is why I've built it like this. So I've got the MX silencer to keep suppressed. Now you can use the recoil booster as well if you want a slightly faster TTK, which is actually a really good option, but it just depends on whether or not you want to be suppressed or not. You want to use the longest barrel still to give you the better recoil control and bullet velocity. Then I use the M1 hand stop. I do think this is the best at controlling recoil because we are using the remove stock for better movement speeds. We're using Vital because we don't use any damage mags here. We're using the 60 round mags because we need as many bullets as possible, especially when it comes to Iron Trials. Lengthen still because I do still want to be able to use this gun at long range. The fabric grip for the faster aim down sight time, and then fully loaded in whatever optic you like. The next two loadouts are going to be AR SMG combos, which is what people mainly use for Rebirth Island anyway. So that is why we're mainly focusing two loadouts towards this. And at number 2, we have the C58 along with a Type 100 SMG. Now, first of all, when it comes to nerfs to weapons, we did get a nerf to the XM4, which had its neck shot multiplier decreased. So we're trying to figure out what is the best long range gun, and I do think the C58 is definitely up there in terms of TTKs and recoil control. And then when it comes to the Type 100, it's actually one of the fastest killing SMGs in the game right now, and you can build it a couple of different ways that make it really broken, but this is definitely the best build for the Type 100. So you want to use the recoil booster for the faster fire rate. You want to use the rapid barrel once again for the faster fire rate. Now you do get a con to damage, but that doesn't really matter too much because a faster fire rate is going to be more forgiving in those closer ranges. Skeletal under barrel, but you can also use the pistol grip. The 48 round drums because you do need those larger mags again for Iron Trials. Hollow point for the extra limb damage and the consistent TTKs, of course. Fabric grip for the better sprint to fire time. We can also use the grooved grip, which is going to give you better strafing speeds. Personally, I've tried both, and I do think the groove grip is my personal favorite, but when it comes to perks, Fleet or Gung Ho is going to be really good options here. Now, this gun is kind of more versatile, so I wouldn't really use Gung Ho on this one because I do prefer the faster movement speeds of Fleet. But just keep in mind, you can't use Vital with the damage mags here, so just make sure you know that you can't pair those together. Then when it comes to the stock, the skeletal stock is just the best for the Type 100. Everyone uses this stock anyway. And then the iron sights as the optic because I like iron sights on an SMG. Now when it comes to the C58 build, it's pretty much the standard build we're all used to by now anyway, which is the agency suppressor, which is going to give you the bullet velocity and the damage range and the recoil control and all that good stuff. Task Force barrel for the best possible recoil control. Axial 3 times optic. Then when it comes to the mags, now currently, in the current state of Rebirth, 45 is way more than enough to take out multiple opponents. It's going to give you a slightly faster ADS, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the Iron Trials, and the reason why I picked this gun is that you do get a 55 round mag option. And with that 55 round mag, it's just going to give you those extra bullets you need to take out those multiple opponents. It's going to con your ADS a little bit, but when it comes to playing in Iron Trials, ADSing is not really all that important anymore because you factor that into your TTKs and all that kind of stuff. So that is why I do think the C58 is a pretty solid gun for the Iron Trials on Rebirth. And then you've got the Field Agent grip to control the recoil, but like I said, overall this is a solid loadout. At number 1, we have my 2 favourite guns inside Warzone at the moment, and that is the Cold War AK-47 paired with the well gun. Now the well gun overall, in my opinion, is just the best SMG in the game right now. It's got one of the fastest possible TTKs when it comes to SMGs, and on top of that, it's just got a super large mag and a good damage per mag, and the same kind of goes for the AK-47 as well. The damage per mag is really good with this gun. On top of that, it's got one of the fastest TTKs for a long range rifle. Now, when it comes to the well gun, I see a lot of people using that fire rate barrel. Now, I don't really think that works with the well gun because you do need the recoil control on this weapon, and now that we've got the iron sights and all that kind of stuff, I do think that helps overall. So the best build for the well gun, in my opinion, is this one, and I've been using it an absolute ton in Rebirth and doing really well with it. So we've got the recoil booster for the faster fire rate, we've got the shrouded barrel, which is going to help with the recoil control. We've also got the iron sights, which is going to give you a faster ADS time. We've got the remove stock. It gives you overall just way better movement speeds, and that is why I think it's better. Now when it comes to the perk, you can use fleet, you can use gung ho, you can use acrobatic. You've got quite a lot of options here. Personally, my favorite is fleet, but sometimes I do switch to gung ho if I want the better hip fire accuracy and you want to use those kind of hip fire builds. Then when it comes to perk 2, you can use quick. The fabric grip for the well gun is a much better option because the faster ADS time, because these mags con your ADS an absolute ton. So you definitely need the fabric grip, in my opinion, on the well gun, and that way you can use 64 round drums and you get that damage per mag potential that you need for Iron Trials. Hollow point once again, and the skeletal under barrel, and again that's to help with the slow ADS of the mags. When it comes to the Cold War AK-47, it's the standard build. It's very similar to the C58 build. So GRU suppressor, Spetsnaz RPK barrel for the recoil control, axial 3x optic, 45 round mags, and the Spetsnaz grip. This is pretty much the meta build for any Cold War long range rifle. And then when it comes to the magazine, once again we've got that same option, but the only difference is the damage per mag on the Cold War AK is way better, and you get a larger mag option too. So currently, like I said, 45 is more than enough, but if we do get into those Iron Trials game modes, then 60 rounds will be way more than enough. So there we have it. Those are 5 best Rebirth loadouts that you can use right now, or more importantly, when those Iron Trials game modes release very, very shortly. If you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k subscribers. Click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel, and thank you very much for watching.